From Homedale to Salmon River, District 3 has several teams that don't always get their due. Stepping outside the shadows of the SIC, this is the Treasure Valley Prepcast with Logan Green.
That's right. Another edition of the Treasure Valley Prepcast coming at you on IdahoSports.com. Brandon Baney is always joined by our resident expert for all things 3A, 2A, 1A over there in District 3, Logan Green. Logan, what's up?
Oh, not much. Just I think we talked last week about how you guys had snow and we lost it all. It's all gone now. So life's great. There's no slush or anything around. It's nice over here on this side of the state.
All right. Enough gloating, Logan. That's
right.
That's enough of that. Friendly reminder, you can get this podcast a couple of different ways, audio only at our website, IdahoSports.com. On the homepage, you'll see a tab on the top of the page. It says Prepcasts, little drop-down menu. You just click on Treasure Valley Prepcast. You can click on any of our podcasts that we do each week. We do 5 of them now in the winter season. You can also download this podcast wherever you download your podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, etc. Video version as well if you want to see Logan's hoodie. What's the hoodie today, Logan?
It's just plain. There's nothing.
A plain gray hoodie.
Yeah, it's nothing exciting.
All right.
I was hoodie shopping the other day, and they don't have any good options online for my teams. So if there's anybody out there, District 3 or any other district, I won't discriminate, that has a hoodie that they want to put on my back, I'll take it. What do I have? I have a Garden Valley hat. I have a Carey shirt. Somebody else gave me something recently. I can't remember, but those are the last 2 things that I've got: Garden Valley hat and a Carey shirt. So I'm a fan. I will take anything. So if somebody wants to get me a new hoodie out there, I'll jump on your bandwagon any day of the week.
The bandwagon jumper has spoken. Video version of this is on IdahoSports.com's YouTube channel as well as the Facebook page. So we got a lot to cover today. I think the conversation, Logan, has to start in girls basketball and specifically the 2A ranks, that Western Idaho Conference. We talked on last week's Prepcast about the big matchup that everybody had circled. It was last Saturday, Melba taking on Cole Valley Christian. Those have been the top 2 teams in the coaches and media polls pretty consistently since the start of the season. And it didn't disappoint. It was a really it was a fun matchup, but I think Cole Valley showed that they are the team to beat this year with a 48-30 victory over Melba.
Yeah, when you pull away like that, I mean, and win by 18, almost 20 points, I think you really start opening a lot of eyeballs and saying, okay, this team, they do deserve that top spot that they've been put in. You look at the coaches poll and the girls right now, and Cole Valley Christian, I'm leading the way right now. Last week, they had 6 first-place votes. Melba had 1. You'd imagine all of those votes are now going to go to the Chargers, that they're going to take that top spot, especially after Melba, coming off that loss to Cole Valley, ended up losing again to Nampa Christian, forcing a huge log jam right there in the middle of this 2A WIC conference, which should make things really exciting as we come down the stretch here.
Yeah, it was kind of wild. Melba, we're recording this Wednesday morning, and Tuesday night, last night, Melba fell to Nampa Christian. So yeah, Nampa Christian, Melba, New Plymouth, all tied at 5-3, all with different resumes. We were kind of comparing before we hopped on, and it was a little confusing to sort it all out. But if you look at Melba, their 3 losses in the conference now, they've lost to Cole Valley twice and Nampa Christian. Nampa Christian has lost to Melba, and they've lost to Cole Valley, and they've also lost to New Plymouth. So they've lost to 3 of the top 4 teams. New Plymouth has lost to Melba, and they've lost to Cole Valley, and they lost to Ambrose 47-42. So New Plymouth is the team that can actually play its way into that second place spot. They're the team that's got the most games left. They still play Melba, Nampa Christian, and Cole Valley Christian, and they're all coming up 3 games in a row, the 14th, the 20th, and the 25th.
And it's critical to play well right now. We were looking, and the representation this year for 2022 girls basketball, 2.5 seeds will come out of District 3. So 2 teams are automatically in. Those 2 teams that are going to make it to the conference finals, they're in, right? They're going to state. Then that half seed will be whoever comes in third at district. And they're going to have to play against the District 5 second place team. And so in that game going to be over in Burley. It's only a month away, Brandon. That play-in game is on February 12th. Today is January 12th. So exactly 1 month from today, those, the third place team from here in District 3 will play that second place team in District 5 for that seed at state, for that final spot. And man, I tell you, if you're one of these teams in the middle, if you're New Plymouth, if you're Nampa Christian, if you're Melba, you want to finish second, because that game is going to be extremely tough. You're going to have to go up against either Soda Springs, Westside, or Aberdeen, most likely. I shouldn't say that is what will happen. Just looking at the standings as they are right now, those 3 teams, Soda Springs right now 3-0 in conference, and Aberdeen and Westside both with 11 wins on the season already. You don't want to risk your chance at state by having to go to Burley and play one of those 2 teams. So if you're Melba, Nampa Christian, New Plymouth, the time is now. Maybe you can't catch Cole Valley. Maybe they're going to get that top spot at districts and go through. But the time's now to get cranking. And if you can beat, you just need to beat one of those other 2, right? You don't need to beat Cole Valley at this point. And that, if it was me, I wouldn't have that as. I guess that would be the goal, everybody. You want to win the district, right? But if you want to get to state, honestly, I look at beating those 2 and what can you do to beat, if you're New Plymouth, what do you do to beat Melba and Nampa Christian? If you're Melba, well, you're kind of looking at those other 2 as your path to state. Personally, I guess I'm just it's a hedge, right? For me, it's a hedge. I say, you know what? We're going to let you have this, Cole Valley. It's yours. You guys are legit, really good. It's yours. And you focus on knocking those other 2 out. What can you do to get better to beat, those other 2 and get that automatic bid? It's going to be tough, and it's going to be a fun tournament. That tournament will be at CUNA this year, the 2A girls tournament. So should be fun to see how everything shakes out the last couple of weeks here.
Yeah, and even more critically, the race for second and third in the regular season standings will also be very important, because we just talked about one of those 3 teams, New Plymouth, Melba, or Nampa Christian, somebody's going to finish 4th, which means you're on the same side of the bracket as Cole Valley Christian, which makes that road a little tougher. So,
you're gonna go back into that loser bracket, and then you're automatically you lose that first game, and now you're automatically knowing I got to go to Burley. If I get through this, I got to go to Burley, and I got to play potentially Soda Springs, who is just always there. Westside and Aberdeen, who those are really good schools. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, like you said, Brandon. If you finish second or third, all I got to do is beat the other one, and I'm at state. Great. If I can win districts, icing on the cake. But if I beat the 2, I beat the 3, I get to the finals, I'm good, whether I lose to Cole Valley or not. We'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a tough tournament, and if somebody that 4 seed in the end can upset Cole Valley, then that really shakes things up as it would stand.
Yeah, and we talked about it as well last week on the Prepcast. There's only 7 teams in the conference this year. Vision Charter is not playing a varsity schedule, so not only are you, if you finish 4th, not only are you having to play Cole Valley, but you're playing Cole Valley in their first game. They don't because if Cole Valley wins the league, they would normally play the 8 seed. Well, there is no 8 seed. So they're going to get a bye. So you're getting a full strength Cole Valley team that's rested and hasn't had to play as well.
Yeah. And in that championship game too, they'll be coming off of just one game. Cole Valley beat Melba in that district championship game last year, 51-38. So a rematch of the game we saw last week and a very similar score. But you look at the semifinals from last year's tournament, for the District 3 here. Cole Valley was first, New Plymouth was second, Melba was third, and Nampa Christian 4th. And Cole Valley ran through Nampa Christian 47-22 in that first round game. And then, Melba ended up beating New Plymouth in that second place game, or that semifinal game. So you never know what can happen. And then Melba, of course, goes on and does great in the state tournament. And they were the 3rd seed here at state, or in the district. So I just say get to state. I don't care how you do it. At least that's my opinion. That's what we're here for, right? Opinions. Get to state. That's what you want, right? You want to win the state championship. If you win your district, but you don't win state, you leave disappointed. You got to think that's how you view the season, as a disappointment if you're not able to win that state tournament. And I think that you can get there just like Melba did last year. Hey, you just hang around, and then you never know what can happen if you just hang around. You beat that team that you needed to beat just to get to state. You don't worry about you don't got to beat Coe Valley right now. Let somebody else take care of that at state, and then you just knock them off, right?
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this conference race unfold here as we get towards the last little stretch of the regular season, and we'll keep updating you each week on what's going on and how everything is looking. Let's move on to the 3A ranks in girls basketball, Snake River Valley Conference, and I think we haven't really given Fruitland the time and attention they've deserved so far this year. We keep talking about Parma all the time, but yet it is Fruitland that is very quietly gone 10-4 overall. They're still undefeated in the conference, 4-0. And are a lot of their wins coming at the very end by 2 or 3 points most of the time? Sure, but they're finding ways to win.
Hey, survive and advance, right? It doesn't matter how you do it. A win's a win. It shows up in the books the same way. But we mentioned those close wins. They last night on Tuesday night beat Homedale 45-42, so another slim victory there. They also defeated Weiser earlier in the week 41-32. So a couple good wins in conference over the last couple days for them. They have a rematch with Payette on Thursday night. They already beat Payette 62-25. So hey, if you're a Fruitland fan, you got to like where you're sitting right now. Things looking really good. Really, the only team you haven't faced in conference right now is McCall Donnelly. That's the unknown, right? They've played everybody except McCall Donnelly. And it's funny, they play them back to back. They play them on the 22nd and the 24th. So an interesting schedule right there for those two.
Yeah, games getting moved around because of weather and also COVID still. So yeah, it's made for an interesting back end of the schedule. This is a Fruitland team that just won the girls soccer title this fall, and a lot of those same athletes are playing basketball. Abby Rubidoux and the Drollingers and Peyton Fritz is playing basketball. Gracie Huff is a great post inside. She scored the game-winning basket as time expired in that win over Parma back in December, 48-46 that we talked about. This is a good team. Lexi Barnes is a great guard out front. And Coach Drollinger has done a really good job with this Fruitland program.
Yeah, I think that they right now, you got to think that they are the favorite. I think Parma, we talked a lot about Parma last week, and they will have something to say at the end of the day because we saw Parma. That was a 2-point game. I think it's going to come down to those two teams this year as to who comes out of District 3. Of course, 2.5 bids, though, from District 3 this year at 3A. So, I really like the way the season is shaped out so far. I like Fruitland and I like Parma, but you look at below, and then it's anybody's ball game as to who gets that half seed at the state tournament. And that would be I have to look more into it. That's kind of a mess there at who gets that seed, who they would play. But there's a lot to play for, even for those teams that are just below Fruitland and Parma.
Yeah, every single district in 3A gets a half bid, right? 1 and 2 up north gets 1.5, 3 gets 2.5, 4 gets 1.5, 5 and 6 get 1.25. I think the way that goes is 5 and 6 will play each other. The winner of that will play 4, and 3 plays 1 and 2.
Okay, so they get the 1. So District 3, the third place team will play the second place team from District 1.
I think that's how that goes.
And it'll be okay. So again, that's a month from today at Grangeville. So that's your reward, right? Is a trip up north, and right now,
And I'll tell you,
north, Timberlake very good. They'll probably finish first. So you're looking at either most likely a Kellogg or a Bonners Ferry that you'll be matched up with. So we'll see how that one shakes out.
Yeah, Kellogg's good. I think it'll be Kellogg. They're good. So we'll keep an eye on that. The big game is next week. Fruitland, Parma, the rematch. We'll talk more about that on next week's Prepcast. 1As, in terms of the D1, there's not a ton to report on because Notice is just they're kind of running away with this thing. They're 9-1 overall. They're 5-0 in the conference. A little bit later on today on IdahoSports.com, we're bringing back our big deal of the week, brought to you by Project Filter. And our first one of the new year is Victoria Ortega from Notice. And she has been playing really well this year, as have the rest of the Lady Pirates.
Yeah, they're looking good. Sorry, I was looking at my notes here because I think we're going to have that Fruitland Parma game on Idaho Sports.
Awesome.
It's down as a potential. Yeah, I think we might have. We're going to be at Parma a couple of times this season, so that would be a very fun one to watch if you're out there. That Parma game, but like you said, sorry, I was jumping around.
That's all right.
Mentioned Notice. I mean, looking really good right now at 1A D1, sitting at the top of the league, 5-0 right now, 9-1 on the season. And you look this week, they beat Gem State on Monday pretty handily, almost the same exact score as they beat Cascade. They beat Cascade 53-13 and then beat Gem State 53-14. So, man, I tell you, that defense for the Pirates is really stout. They also held Idaho City to less than 20 points, and another time they held Gem State to under 20 points. So you like what you see right there from this team right now, this Notice squad that's been on the verge of making to state every year the last couple of years. And you look and say, hey, maybe this is their year. We saw them beat Liberty Charter earlier in the year, thinking that maybe that was, Liberty Charter is going to be down after all that they lost this year. And I tell you, maybe it's Notice's time to take the reins right now.
Yeah, they're looking really good. 1A D2s for girls basketball. The big matchup that we talked about was Council against Garden Valley last week, right? Council and Garden Valley are the two teams that have been pretty consistently ranked in the polls. They've had nice starts to the year, but Council showed. I mean, Coach Paula Tucker, all she does is win. It doesn't matter what school she's coaching at, what sport she's coaching. She's just really good. And Council had a nice victory over Garden Valley this past Saturday, 54-37.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the teeter-totter game. And I think they've gotten through those. They beat Tri-Valley pretty handily and then go and beat Garden Valley pretty handily as well. Almost the exact same score in those two games, too. I think you're starting to see that Council has separated themselves from the pack officially. We'll call it official on that. And really, I mean, we talked about it a little bit before we came on, Brandon, but you look at their schedule and the way it's shaken out right now, it looks like Salmon River has some injury issues and aren't going to be able to play some of their games. They could potentially only have 3 more regular season games right now as a schedule. They're sitting with 4, but one of those is as well with Salmon River. Man, that could really hinder them. I'm concerned about that you don't get all of those games in the regular season. And then, you get to district or state and teams have played 10 more games than you, 12 more games and have, more time to gel. So hopefully that doesn't affect Council. I don't think it will at the end of the day because they're just a great team, undefeated so far. So hopefully that doesn't play a factor into it. I don't think so. I mean, they've already beaten a 3A school. So I'm going to go ahead and say no on that. But just something to keep an eye on, keep in the back of your mind that, hey, they haven't played as many games as most teams this year.
Yeah, they only played, I think, 3 games in December, which is unusual. December is kind of the big month, I feel like.
Yeah,
a lot of girls basketball teams. So, we'll keep an eye on Council as well. Let's hop over to the boys' side because Council against Garden Valley was also the big matchup in boys basketball this past Saturday. That one was a little bit closer.
Yeah, and this is another one where, the teeter-totter, we'll see which way it goes, and then we can know where the teams stand. And Council comes away with a tight win, and I think it says a lot about Garden Valley that maybe that they have we probably, at least me, I probably didn't give them the credit they deserved early on. I thought, hey, you lose all those guys, you're done. That you lost last year, but you look at them coming in, and they played well this season, and then they hung right in there with Council in this game. Right now, Council's sitting undefeated in conference so far, and they hung right in there with them. And so, if you're Garden Valley, I think both teams can come away from that game feeling good. I think we saw Garden Valley, and we're starting to think that they were good, better than we thought they were. And I think it says a lot about both of those teams in that. And then, you look at the 1A D2 level, 2 teams get in from District 3. So who is that going to be this year? Is it going to be those two, the Garden Valley and Council, or is somebody else going to have something to say, like a Horseshoe Bend or a Tri-Valley sitting at 2-2? I don't know. I think Council and Garden Valley probably have separated themselves from the pack in that regard, that they're probably the 2 favorites as we get deeper into conference play to get those 2 bids to state.
I think Horseshoe Bend still has a lot to say in this conference race. They have played Garden Valley. It was last Tuesday, and they lost 66-59. So what's that?
Right.
A 7-point loss? That's not bad. They still play Council twice and Garden Valley. In fact, they play Council Thursday night in Council. That'll be a big game that tells us if Horseshoe Bend is ready. You look at the overall record, and they're 4-8, and that doesn't blow you away, but they've played a lot of tough teams. They've played North Gem, which is a state contender, Cary, which is a state contender, and they've played a couple of 1A D1s, Victory Charter and Liberty Charter, and we know how good those teams are.
Yeah, so, Liberty Charter, they're a good school. I saw them play a couple weeks ago, and yeah, they've had a daunting schedule so far. Like you said, Cary and Camas County might be the two of the best teams in 1A D2, and they've already gotten a crack at them. They've seen them on the court, and they were respectively close.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. I think Horseshoe Bend, they did lose that game to Garden Valley, but it was close, and it was at Garden Valley. They'll get another crack at them at home in a couple weeks. That one on January 31st. That one will be at Horseshoe Bend. At that point, I think that'll be the last thing to really decide how all the dust will settle and how those brackets will shake up at district.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how Horseshoe Bend does against Council on Thursday night. That'll be a really fun game to watch. So yeah, don't count out Horseshoe Bend yet. I think they're still very much in the mix and could end up winning this thing if they get on a hot streak. Still in the 1A D1 ranks, it's kind of a mess because of schedules. Victory Charter, Notice are both 2-0 in the league. Rimrock and Riverstone are both 1-0. So the way this league works, there's so many teams that basically when you get into the second half of the year, you play everybody once, and that's what counts towards your conference record. So a lot of times these schools will play each other in December, but it won't count in the conference standings.
Right.
It'll be like a non-conference game. So you've got a really loaded schedule here because a lot of these schools went through illness and of course the bad weather. So you're going to have, for example, Victory Charter still has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They have 9 games to play in like a 3.5 week span.
Yeah, they're going to cram them in. I'm just looking right now at Notice's schedule as well, and they're loaded. They're actually going on the road this weekend to Murtaugh for one more non-conference game, and they'll welcome in Nampa Christian in a couple weeks. So they're still reaching out of conference, even though they have a lot more games left to play. But you look at the schedule right now, and like Victory Charter coming into it was the overwhelming favorite in the conference. But Rimrock and Notice hanging around right there. I think I would lean more Rimrock than Notice. Notice did lose early on to Centennial Baptist, but Centennial Baptist has looked good. Riverstone beat Centennial Baptist last week, So I think really it's kind of a mess
Yeah.
for everybody after Liberty Charter. I think that's the one thing I'm taking away right now. 1A D1 District 3 does get 2 bids, so somebody else is going to get a bid. But who is it? I don't know. I don't even know if I can throw a dart at the board right now, Brandon, at who's going to get that second spot.
I still think it's Victory Charter and Liberty Charter, and the other teams, at least to me, have to prove it. And again, Victory and Liberty played in their conference opener on December 22nd at Northwest Nazarene University in Nampa, and they don't see each other again.
Yeah,
well, that's the hard part is the 2 best teams in everybody's mind already played, and that was a close game. Victory only won 54-49, so I would love to see a rematch between those 2 at districts, but a lot of navigating they have to do to get there first.
Yeah, and right now Rimrock holds the edge on them in that regard. Rimrock defeated Liberty Charter a couple weeks ago, so Rimrock's sitting at 1-0 in conference. And again, when it comes down to building that bracket out, if you can finish not 4th, you have a good shot. If you finish 4th, you're going to get Victory Charter, and that's what you don't want. So again, the goal, kind of like I mentioned with the girls, if you can get into that 2nd or 3rd spot and beat whoever is opposite you, you have a great shot, and you just survive in advance. You just get to state, and you never know what can happen once you're in that position.
Yeah, Rimrock did win that game 38-32, so that was another tight one. And this is going to be another league that is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And, it wouldn't surprise me if one of these teams that's towards the bottom of the pack, a North Star Charter or a Greenleaf Friends, if they knocked off somebody and sprung an upset that kind of threw chaos into the works as well. It'll be a fun tournament.
I think of any level that we've talked about so far here in District 3 where you could see a dark horse make a run and make it to state, it's going to be there. I think you could potentially see one of those lower seeded teams, an 8 or a 9, somehow sneak their way in, just get hot at the right time, have their star player playing the best at that moment. And, there's plenty of that to go around between those schools. And one of them could potentially make one of those Cinderella runs to state. I enjoy the Cinderella schools, so it'll be fun to watch. Now I'm excited for all this, Brandon. I'm ready for. Let's just skip the regular season and get into districts. I'm just kidding about that, but
you talked about this. You talked
it's
about
a fun time.
Yeah, you talked about the Cinderella run. That's exactly what Riverstone did last year, right? They didn't hardly play any games because of COVID and got all the way to the championship. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch that for sure. 2A, we've been circling this for a while. Ambrose, Melba, it's finally happening, Logan.
Yeah, tomorrow night, number 1 versus number 2, and it doesn't get any better. It's right here on IdahoSports.com. You can watch that game. I'll be there for it. Very excited to be there for that game. It should be a fantastic matchup from Ambrose. So if you're out there, if you like District 3 basketball, that's what you should be watching tomorrow night. You should be ready for that game. No need to go anywhere. Don't have to go out and make the trek over there. We'll bring it to you. It should be a great matchup. Like we said, both of these teams are ranked very highly in the state in the coaches poll right now. Ambrose number 1, Melba number 2, or Melba's number 3, just below North Fremont. So you got to think whoever wins this game moves up. If you're Melba, you move up to that top spot. If you're Ambrose, you keep it and you kind of have a stranglehold on that top spot. It should be a great game. I'm very excited to see how that one shakes out tomorrow night.
It's going to be so much fun. Here's what I want from you next week, Logan, after you get to assess both teams up close. You've got these star players, and these are good teams. They're not one-player teams, but you've got Johnny Sugarman for Ambrose, and you've got Joe Reber for Melba. I believe they were the co-MVPs of the league last year, and they're probably going to be the co-MVPs of the league again this year. But I want you to tell me who impressed you more.
Man, I've already seen Ambrose play a couple times over at the Waihe tournament, and man, they were very fun to watch. I'm excited to see them play again. That game that I was in and out of that tournament, but saw them play that first round game against Homedale, and man, they were good. They were fast and quick, and I'm excited to see them again against a Melba squad. a conference game more on the line. We're not at the side gym upstairs at Owyhee. There's going to be fans. There's going to be people screaming. It's going to be good. It's going to be a fun game to be at and to watch if you watch it at home. Yeah, I mean, right now I lean Sugarman just because I've seen him play more, but excited to see the other side of things as well. It's just going to be a good game. I think definitely it's going to set up who gets that, the 2A, 2.5 spots. I think they're both pretty well secured in getting those 2 spots. But you look at how the state tournament works this year, the way it's seeded, right? It's very important to win games like this. At the end of the day, like we've said, it doesn't matter. You just get in, right? You want to get in. The regular season, honestly, can kind of be thrown out the window, so to say, because it only matters what you do at district tournaments to get into the state tournament. But once you're there, you get seeded, right? Everything. This is the first year of that. Where do you fit in on that Max Prep rankings? Where do you lie? And this is a huge game where where you finish. If you finish 3rd versus 1, that's a big difference. So these teams really a lot on the line tonight, not just conference seeding, but potentially, not potentially, 100%. This will affect state tournament seeding in March.
It certainly will with the Max Preps rankings for sure. The race for 3rd place is also going to be fascinating to watch because we both agree Ambrose and Melba 1, 2 doesn't really matter the order, and then there's a bit of a drop. But Nampa Christian, Coal Valley Christian, and New Plymouth are all angling for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And that's going to be important because, as you mentioned, 2.5 bids. And I think the 3rd place finisher from this conference has a good chance because just like the girls' side, they're going to play the 2nd place finisher from District 5. And District 5 isn't as strong this year. West Side is kind of head and shoulders above the rest of the class. And, Bear Lake is a team that's really struggles to score points right now. They're probably the 2nd best team. So I think whoever takes 3rd from this league has a really good chance to win that play-in game. That's what happened last year, right? New Plymouth won the play-in game over Firth and got to state. And so the race for that 3rd spot at state potentially is also going to be fascinating. You look, Coal Valley and Nampa Christian split with each other. They already played twice this year, and they each won on their home floor. New Plymouth played Nampa Christian and only lost by 3, 40-37. They played Coal Valley on Thursday night, so that's going to be a big game as well in New Plymouth.
Yeah, you're going to see kind of where you stand, right? Where you fit into those higher powered teams. And like you said, I think it's going to be a very even matchup. I've seen Aberdeen play. I've seen Westside play. Both of them athletic teams. I really like that Aberdeen squad. I thought they were pretty good the few games I saw them play. But whoever comes, whether it's Nampa Christian, Coal Valley, or New Plymouth, I think it's going to be a very I don't know who would be. I think it would be one of those where it's a pick-em game. I don't know if anybody will be favored over the other in that game, whether it's a Soda Springs, a West Side, or an Aberdeen. But it's going to be 2 very even teams that meet up in that play-in game. So it's still a lot to play for. You might be a little bit buried in the standings, like you said, kind of there's a cliff there. But it's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities to get to the state tournament with that half seed coming out of the district in a doable game in the play-in game.
Yep, certainly. Let's wrap with 3A. And what does McCall Donnelly have to do to get some respect? I mean, they're consistently ranked low in the polls, 3rd or 4th in the coaches and media polls. They're 8-1. Their only loss was to Ambrose by 6.
Yeah, and they really have, you look at the boys coaches poll right now, they're 4th. And, Fruitland, Snake River, Marsh Valley, all good teams. But I tell you, what I've seen from the Vandals this year, they're a very good team, and they are going to make some noise. They went to the state championship last year. Like you said, the only loss was to Ambrose in a tight game at the Owyhee tournament upstairs and back hidden away in the corner. I think they're gonna come out and just start putting it to teams. They play this week. They play Weiser which I think, that they have a good chance to win that. But I think the Fruitland game next Tuesday, the 18th, that will kind of, we'll see how they separate. Right now, Fruitland sitting at 7-2. I think it really comes down to those two, but it's just hard to believe that McCall Donnelly is not one of the top two teams in the state. I think they're very good. And, you look at who they've got. They've got the Johnsons out there that both are phenomenal players. And then DJ Green, who's great. That one game where I saw them play at the Hawaii tournament, it was a by committee game. I think we gave the player of the game award to the whole team because of how well they played in that game. It was against Westside, and nobody dominated inside. They just played well as a team. There wasn't one player that stood out, and they do have the players that can stand out, right? They do have a DJ Green who can take over a game, but he didn't need to. He kind of a little bit struggled in that game, but his team came up from behind and really helped him out in that game. So I think McCall Donnelly should be exciting to see where they stand at the end of the day. And I think that Fruitland game next week will be one to keep your eye on. Like we said, right now, Fruitland number 3 and McCall Donnelly number 4 in the state coaches poll. Both teams getting first place votes. So I think whoever wins this game is going to get that next little bump up, maybe even to that 2 line. So we'll see.
Yeah, and Fruitland very good as well. Their 2 losses came to Buell by 8 and to Baker High School in Oregon by 7. So Fruitland also very good. If I were doing the poll, I don't know why Snake River is ranked second, because if you just look at the resume, Snake River is 10-2, but one of those losses was to a 5-7 Sugar Salem team that is not ranked. McCall Donnelly's lone loss is to the number 1 team in 2A. Fruitland's 2 losses are to an out-of-state opponent and a really good Buell team. So I would put McCall Donnelly second and probably Fruitland third, and Snake River can have fourth. But
yeah, I think I agree. Yeah, like you said, what has Snake River done to prove that's their spot? That they, you look at it, they've lost to Kimberly so far on the season. Not that that's a knock on Kimberly. I mean, they're leading their conference right now, but I really like the resume of Fruitland and McCall Donnelly more so than the Snake River. So, but hey, that's why the games are played on the court, and I'm sure all of these 4 teams will be seeing a lot of each other in March.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one for sure. So anyways, I feel like I'm always getting on the soapbox at the end of our podcasts, Logan. You always bring that to me.
I make you angry?
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I always have something to rant about, I feel like, at the end of the podcast. So
no, I like it, Brandon. Rant away.
Yeah. All right. Well, before my blood pressure increases anymore, we better cut it off and save it for another day. Don't forget, Thursday night, Ambrose, Melba, boys basketball, Logan Green on the call. That's going to be such a fun game to watch live on IdahoSports.com. And lots of big games to talk about as we get into the next week of competition as well. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it should be a great week of basketball. There's a ton of games on Idaho Sports this week. I was looking at the schedule that we have. There's a couple games tonight. There's a couple games tomorrow. There's some on Friday. There's some on Saturday. It's if you want to watch a high school game, there's plenty to choose from on Idaho Sports, which is always fun. Of course, we had the ever popular Idaho Falls Skyline girls game last night over in Eastern Idaho, which whenever those two play, it's always a fun game. But just a lot of good matchups this week on Idaho Sports. But I think that the star game of the week we do have is that one tomorrow night on Thursday night between Melba and Ambrose. Should be fun.
Yeah, and if you want to see the full schedule of games that we're broadcasting, just click on the Game Streams tab on the homepage at IdahoSports.com. You'll see everything you need to know right there. All right, thanks for tuning into the Treasure Valley Prepcast. For Logan Green, I'm Brandon Baney. Enjoy the competition, everybody, and we'll see you back here next week on IdahoSports.com.